Okay, so as you can see, I've worked this towards the center and we're down to the last few little rows. It gets really tight in here. So you can do two things. You can either use a stick, and this is actually the stick I use here. You can see I've sharpened the one end to sort of weave it in and out. In Iron Age times, that likely what they would have used, something made of bone or wood that they could use that was much narrower than fingers, because as you can see, space gets really tight in here and it only gets tighter as you go along. So I'm going to use, and I highly recommend this, a crochet hook is quite handy. So I finished with the one down, one up. So now I have to go two down, one up, and we'll go along here. It's really important as you're doing this that you make sure you keep all your threads in order, because if you go out of order, that's when suddenly you get a mistake in your weave. And now if you do make a mistake, don't worry. That's why you're using the sticks. If suddenly you realize that 2 or 3 rows back you've made a mistake, you can just pull your sticks out starting from the center and go back and fix it. So it's super handy if you, and you can use as many sticks as you want. I usually use 3 or 4, but there's really no limit to it. So I'm going to do one more row here, and then we're going to join it. So I just did the 2, so now I'm going to do 1. And as you can see, I'm running out of space, and this is what happens. It gets really tight, and this is where you need to make sure you slow down and really pay attention to what you're doing, because this is where mistakes happen, because your visibility is less, your space to work is less, everything is less, and it just gets more complicated. So I'm through there. I'm going to throw one more stick in there. Okay. So there, that's going to be my final row of weaving, and now I'm going to do the join. But before I do that, you want to take a good look at everything that you've done. And you can see here, as I go along, we have a few rows, and then we have a switch in direction right there. And then I've done a few more rows, and I switch directions again. And I come down, and now we're finishing it off. And I'm pulling all my sticks out except my 2 sticks that are holding my center, because if I pull these 2 sticks out, everything comes unraveled right back to the beginning. But so long as those sticks are in, 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. I work with 2. If you prefer to work with 1, that is completely up to you. So this space is a little bit bigger than normally I would use, but I just want to demonstrate now how to do the join. You have 2 choices, and there's 2 different examples historically. If you look at extant finds, you will find the woven method, which is what I use, or you will find the string method, which is if you want something with a rigid bottom or a rigid join in the middle, the string method is better. And to do that, you would basically do a weave, pulling a needle, like with a needle and thread. You would do a weave like that. That's how you would do the string join, because basically you just need the string in there to hold this space for you. I use the loop and loop method, and I will show you an example of what that looks like on a bigger piece. You can see this piece is sprung right here. And basically, it's, if you crochet, it's a crochet join, but that's what your center join looks. You just do 2 loops into 2 loops into 2 loops into 2 loops. I use a crochet hook. Historically, they would have used a sharp piece of bone that had a natural hook to it, something like that. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this right off the loom. Remember, we have our string here to hold that end. We have our string here to hold that end. So if I carefully slide this off, no harm will come to it, and I can simply work on my lap. If I wanted to, and I may, I'm going to take one of these sticks out, so I still had a placeholder, but it's going to give me a little bit more room to work. Now, for those who actually crochet, I am fully aware I'm doing this backwards. I don't know why I do it this way, but this is just the way that I've started. So now I have my first loop with my first 2 threads. And then I want to pick up my next 2 top and bottom thread right there, and I'm going to pull it through. Okay. Now this is fiddly and tricky and not a lot of fun. Don't rush it, just take your time, make sure you do it properly. Okay, so there's my next 2. And I pull it through, and this is going quite well. Just sort of tighten it up so you can see it. And this is why I only did 10 threads instead of my usual 80, because it can take forever. Okay, so now that's done. You need to keep a hold of that. You don't want to lose it, so I am just going to get a little piece of thread here. That I'm going to use to hold that, and then we'll show you the entire piece. So now, whatever you choose to do with this, you just have to remember when you're finishing it that you have to somehow hit that loop and close it off permanently. Okay, so now if I take it out, I have my top, and the way I close off these, and I'll show you in one of my finished pieces, is that I actually do that same loop and loop technique just to close everything off and keep it. You now want to wet it down, give it a good wash, and lay it out. And that's going to take care of any of the residual twisting, tension issues, things like that. But you can see as we go that you now have a piece of woven material. It's stretchy and springy. Lots of room for air, so if this was a base layer, it would give you good insulation because it's going to fill with air, heat from your body heat, and keep you insulated. So this is sprung. There is your center. So now I will show you some bigger pieces. This is just sort of a demo piece and not really useful for very much, but I'll show you some bigger pieces that I've made. Here I've used a little bit more of a complicated weaving pattern to make the bigger holes in patterns. But you have your basic sprung here, and then you can intersperse it with a little bit of a different weave. They're not complicated. It's still your basic twisting motion, just going in different patterns and different thread counts. So there's one, here's another one. And with each of these, you notice that your center is tied off so it doesn't come undone. You have your top weave, your bottom weave, and your center join. And one of the historical artifacts that we have found made with sprung is the bog hood. And this is a recreation that I have made using Hallstatt weaving pattern. This is tablet woven band here, and sprung to form the cap itself. And it's a hairnet. And here you can see the center join. This is the bottom row, and then the top is up here under the tablet woven band. And that is your crash course in sprung. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I get a chance to talk with you more about this when we all get together after COVID. Thank you.